Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final season episode of the Kelly Green Hour as the Philadelphia Eagles fall in the wildcard round to the San Francisco 49ers 23-19. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, I'm going to have to try to find the words because I'm still ticked off, pissed off, frustrated, disappointed about what took place at Lincoln Financial Field last night.
Yeah, I've tried to find the words and I've tweeted a lot, and I know that there's a lot of blame to go around, and it sucks. It sucks. It's hard to talk about a loss, but I mean, at the end of the day, if we made it past this round, I feel like every game would just be so unenjoyable. I was on the edge of my seat. Who I was watching the game with, as soon as they took over the on the offensive side of the ball, they were like, oh, well, at least they have a chance. I was like, I would rather have the lead and put the trust in our defense with 2 minutes to go rather than this position we were put into. But
I mean, we did have the lead and we put the trust in the defense. And again, I'm not blaming the defense.
Far from
but
it.
We did have the lead. We had the lead and the defense gave up a score. So, I don't know. It was just a lose-lose. It hurt yesterday. But before we jump further into the game, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRoll54. And follow the Eagles Pin Pull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pin Pull Network. And if you're joining us live, let us know your thoughts in the chat. We already have Adam's exploits. What's going on? Go away, KP. I'm pissed off that I haven't gotten the notification that he's been fired because it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then Sirianni should be fired. But yes, I'm waiting for that. They should jump right into the coaching search for a new offensive coordinator.
I was the one.
As soon as the game hit quad zeros, he should have been fired.
I was tweeting yesterday, and it felt like such an injustice. I understand it's a rash reaction, but it felt like an injustice that he didn't lose his job immediately after that game. And I get it; they're probably going to do exit interviews, probably tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever. And I mean, there's no way you give Sirianni the keys ever again to hire any coordinator. You took the keys to the defensive coordinator and Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore and took the power away from Sirianni. And then I get it. Then people are like, but what's the point of Nick Sirianni then? That's for Sirianni, Howie, and Laurie to figure out. He's going to have some sort of role if they still envision him as the coach, but he no longer gets to hire or control his staff. No way.
No, we're at that point, which you're right. Like, it comes down to what does he do anyway? But look, I'm fine with him being the CEO, head coach. Mike, and again, I'm not comparing him to these guys, but Mike Tomlin's the CEO. John Harbaugh is pretty much a CEO, head coach when he was with Baltimore. Dan Campbell started calling plays this year, but he got to a point when he had Ben Johnson where he kind of was like the CEO, head coach. So it can work. You need the right pieces around you, and they have that at defensive coordinator, and they need to find the Vic Fangio of offensive coordinators, which is tough because the league usually trends towards offensive coordinators becoming head coaches. And you have to find that Frank Reich, Doug Peterson type. Maybe Todd Monken is that guy. I know he's interviewed for a couple. He's interviewed for a couple of head coaching jobs, but I don't know. Maybe he could be that type. And again, I'm not saying that's the guy that the Eagles would go after. But if you try to get a Mike McDaniel or a Cliff Kingsbury or somebody like that, they're going to want to try to become head coaches. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury's been one. Mike McDaniel's been one. Brian Daboll. I don't know. Brian Daboll's an interesting one. I don't know if he would ever get another chance to be a head coach. So, maybe the Eagles could potentially look at him. Sirianni and Daboll worked together at Kansas City. I think it was Kansas City when Sirianni was the receivers coach. Daboll also worked with Jalen Hurts at Alabama for a year. So, he would have some and he coached Saquon with the Giants. So he would have some familiarity. I never say that word with some of the guys with the Eagles. So that would be an interesting name. But the Eagles definitely, if you're going to make a move, it needs to be soon, because there's teams out there that are going to be hiring head coaches, and some of these guys that are looked at as potential offensive coordinators could be going to those places. So you want to try to get the jump, and you can get the jump now that you're out of the playoffs.
And I think the biggest thing is going to be the Harbaugh domino. As soon as John Harbaugh's domino falls and he picks his team, I think you're going to start seeing like the Stefanski, I think McDaniel's going to be a head coach again. Like Stefanski, McDaniel, and some of those are going to quickly follow suit. So if you can get ahead now that you got the chance to get ahead a bit, we don't know how long Harbaugh is going to take, but you got to get out in front of that train and try and get, your coordinator, someone who you see as your offensive coordinator of the future. Like you said, would Brian Daboll have a chance again at a head coach? I don't know. There's a lot of people who think Cliff Kingsbury, while he's getting interviews, shouldn't get another shot at being a head coach. So it's tough to say if he's actually going to get a shot or if he's just going to get a highly coveted offensive coordinator role. I mean, you would think that the Eagles, this role teleported Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore into their head coaching roles that they're in right now. And Kellen Moore clearly is a lot better than we took him to be. If, the back half of the Saints season is any sign of what could be coming for Kellen Moore and the Saints. But I mean, it would be nice to have the continuity for Hurts, because again, it's a new offensive coordinator. It would be nice if we could get someone who's like Vic Fangio, who's like, I don't care to have another head coaching job. And if they do get it, if they are to get one, hopefully it would be to step up in the Eagles organization and take over for Sirianni, because I think the experienced play caller is going to put Sirianni on a bit of a hot seat. The people who think he's getting fired this offseason, I think, unless he sticks to Patullo and says, no chance he's coming back or I'm out, then he's out. But if he's like, I'll say yes to whatever you want, he's going to be back next year. But I feel like that experienced play caller could be that one person to put him on the hot seat.
But I do wonder, though, like, Lurie and Roseman have a relationship or know John Harbaugh. And Harbaugh was waiting until this week. Maybe he wanted to see what happened in the first round of the playoffs. And I wonder if the Eagles put out a call to him and say, look, like, they're not obviously like this would probably be a hush hush thing, but like, look, so would you be interested in coming here? And that would be their way of getting out of Sirianni. And let's be honest, would Sirianni get another head coaching job if the Eagles were to fire him? He wouldn't get an offensive coordinator job. That's not happening. Would he get another head coaching job? Like, that would be the big question. Like, who knows? Maybe he would. I don't know.
His record speaks volumes, and I get that, but like, how much of that is actually him?
Yeah, but look at the talent.
That's the talent and the coordinators and the success is. I don't know how much you can attribute to him.
And Roseman is what? Roseman's probably the best GM, if not the best, the second, third, top 3 GM in all of the NFL. And the teams that are available right now, they're not going to have this roster. So what happened with this offense was malpractice, because we have a championship level or championship caliber defense with an elementary school caliber offensive coordinator that kept us from winning and putting up. We put up 19 or less points against in the last 7 games against winning teams. Like, that's pathetic with the talent that we have on offense. And I get it. We had injuries along the offensive line. I do think the rest in week 18 helped the running game. Saquon had over 70 yards rushing in the first half, and then just unfortunately couldn't get going in the second half. But it seemed like that was an entire year thing where the Eagles played one half of football and then didn't play the next half. They scored 6 points. Yippee. And of course, Jake Elliott missing the extra point after the first touchdown. Maybe they wouldn't have needed it, depending on if the game still went the same way, which who knows if it would have. The Eagles wouldn't have needed a touchdown on that last drive, so they wouldn't have had to go for it on 4th and 11. They could have kicked the field goal, and I'm not saying Elliott would have made it, but you kick the field goal, you go to overtime, and who knows what the hell happens then. But, you saw the difference between what a good coach, a good offensive coach does. His number, how the hell was DeMarcus Robinson torching us? DeMarcus freaking Robinson, of all people. Juwan Jennings threw a freaking touchdown pass. Like, I get Christian McCaffrey, and then after Kittle went out, there's no reason. That first drive, I couldn't believe that Q got cooked the way he got cooked by DeMarcus Robinson. It made 0 sense. And then Coop on a drive later had to give up a big play, and it was, I was shocked. And again, I'm not putting the blame on the defense. It's not the defense's fault. It would have been nice. I mean, Q had 2 interceptions. The offense got 3 points off of them. That's inexcusable. The Eagles, what were they, like 42-2 when winning the turnover battle going into the game? They won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession battle. And they lost the freaking game. So we can't keep going back, and Sirianni can't keep going back. When we win the turnover battle, we win games. Well, apparently, no, you don't win games often anymore. Like, you need to have a functional offense. You can't have this offense where you're running simplistic routes, where you're running the same routes. Look, AJ didn't help, obviously. AJ had 3 big drops, and I'm still of the ilk that AJ's going to be here because they're not going to take the cap hit. It's a huge cap hit, and I think if you can get a real adult offensive coordinator in here, it will be better. Obviously, be better for the offense and for the guys that are on the offense. Like, they're gonna eventually have to make changes because you're going to have to pay Jalen Carter and Quignon and Coop and maybe Jordan Davis. And I hope Nakobe, but we'll see. I don't want Reed Blankenship back. He sucked yesterday. Along with the linebackers weren't that good either, but that was a one-off for them. I think Reed Blankenship has been terrible all year. I don't think he's a starting safety in the league. So if they don't re-sign him, I'm not going to shed a tear. I want him gone. But there's zero. I'm not going to say there's a 0% chance, but I think it's less than 50% chance that AJ's going to be moved because you trade him. That's at least a $20 million cap hit or a $20 million dead cap. And I don't know if the Eagles are going to want to bite that. And it seems as if AJ and Jalen are kind of back on the same page in terms of, I'm not saying they're like brothers anymore, but they're still, or I think they've, they dapped it up yesterday after the game. Jalen today said that him and AJ have spoken. They're great. Now that could just be Jalen speak, but you never know. But I do think that if that relationship could blend it, and they're not going to be playing into, it sucks, they're not going to be playing into February. They get a month extra longer than they had last year. So all these guys that are banged up, Dickerson can go get whatever he needs to get taken care of. Juergens can get what he needs to be taken care of. Mailata can get some rest, and if bugging out, who knows what's up with Lane Johnson. Him not playing yesterday sucked and was unexpected. Even though, Fred Johnson did a pretty good job because the one thing that really pissed me off about Jalen yesterday was he didn't get pressured a lot, and he still kept bailing out to the right. And I'm like, this is a Jalen thing, but we saw it last week with Tanner McKee. He did the same thing on multiple occasions. So I don't know if that's just what the quarterbacks are being taught by the offensive guys or what. But he did it there would be a clean pocket. All he had to do was stand there, step up, and he wouldn't have to, and he could get an extra second or two to find somebody open. But no, he would bail out to the right and throw it out of bounds. It happened on more than one occasion, and it was frustrating. I apologize, Connor. I know I talked long with it, but I just need to get some stuff off my chest.
I gotta figure out where I want to go. So I'll start with AJ Brown because obviously he's going to be the hot topic. Any move made before June 1st is a negative $20 million on next year's cap. So there's no way he gets moved for draft capital this year. There's no way he gets moved before June 1st. You can't just post June 1st trades. Those actually have to happen after June 1st. After June 1st, there's $7 million in savings to be seen or felt by the team, but it's a boatload of dead cap this year and obviously in 2027 when you split it up. So I agree with you. And I posted it on our X earlier today, where I can't remember what exactly the tweet was that I retweeted, but basically I posed the question: is it more likely we move AJ Brown or we mend bridges with AJ Brown? And I agree with you. I think there is a way that if the Eagles make some moves that he respects, the bridges can be mended. And I think it starts obviously with Kevin Patullo. I think, it was, I can't remember who said it today, but somebody was speaking, National Media Scope was saying that, I think it was Stephen A. Smith actually, who said that AJ Brown was just saying out loud what nobody else wanted to say. And his frustration appears to have stemmed from the fact that he was sitting there looking at everyone else saying, y'all just want to sit on your hands and let this happen with Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni not stepping up. And it went on and it went on and it went on. So I think less power for Sirianni and Patullo out of the picture and a more experienced play caller who can take advantage of his extremely valuable offensive assets is what's going to make A.J. Brown say, okay, I'll come back. I think Howie and Laurie can get through to A.J. Brown. They showed that they could get through to him, what was it, midway through the season when they had a talk with him and told him, can you back off of things? And he actually stopped, going on his social media and doing all of that cryptic messaging. So I think that they can get through to him. I just don't think it's Sirianni who's going to get through to him. And I think it'll be more of Howie being like, give us one more year. I can't financially move off of you this year. And next year, we'll do right by you if you do right by us. Give us this year. That's the type of agreement or feeling that I get will happen. They'll mend the bridges to get through one more season to make financial sense next season, off season, and then they can move on and do what they wish. But it just doesn't make sense because if you have him in the building, you have to, and you're wanting to move on from him after June 1st, you're basically gonna not talk to the guy and build your future wide receiver room while he's right there watching. And then you're driving down his value to other teams because they know that you're building to move on from him. And I think at this point, we've reached a point where A.J. Brown does not carry the same value he did when we acquired him, nor do I think he will ever have that same value, but I don't think he will have that value in general if you start building towards replacing him between now and June 1st when you're able to move off of him. So I agree with you. A bit of a long-winded explanation on A.J. Brown, but I agree with you financially. Even Howie Roseman, as genius as he is it can only make so many financial wizardry happen, and I think this is just one he's not going to get out of. I knew you'd bring up Reed Blankenship. I was waiting for it. I thought he'd be one of the first things you brought up, to be honest, because you've been at him all year. So I see him as a starting caliber safety. I just think he needs someone better beside him. He's not your S1. He would be like your S2 that can go play beside a established, very good safety. The good thing is, I think he played himself this year out of money, whereas if you had to pay him after last season, you were probably going to have to pay him a bit more. I think he's played himself out of a higher bracket financially, but how that, I think Spot Track had him valued at $6 million or $7 million a year. So, I mean,
$7 million too much.
I don't know what we're going to do because safety's light. If you move on from him, you'd probably have to draft one or sign one or figure out where you want to go with the safety position. And I also know Reed Blankenship is loved by fans and loved by Howie Roseman and personnel within the Philadelphia Eagles organization. So I don't know if they're probably going to see this as, man, let's call it 6.5 million a year for a starting caliber safety. We're signing him. Like that's just what I'm feeling. I don't want him back. I don't think. I mean, if the price is right, it's fine if you bring him back, but I don't want him back. I don't want him to be the reason you don't address safety further. Makuba broke his fibula. We don't know when he's going to be back, so we'll see where things go there.
He says he'll be back by spring practice. He gets the boot off in like 3 weeks.
Makes sense.
He says he'll be good to go by spring practices. If I'm Howie, the one guy I want to try to get, if I'm moving up in the draft trying to get Caleb Downs. I love Caleb Downs when he was at Alabama. If there's one guy in this draft that I can get, and I know you don't trade up for safeties, I'm trading up for Caleb Downs.
Well, we've seen it can work. Like, look at, Kyle Hamilton. We've seen, like, they didn't trade up for Kyle Hamilton, but you can see that, safeties are important and they can be so interchangeable and such versatile assets to your defense. But again, this is going to be a Vic Fangio thing. Vic, that Howie Roseman's going to lean on Vic to say, what do you want? What do you need from me for this defense? I say it like, what do you need from me to get this defense to the next level, which it's already there. The big question is, what do you do with Nakobe Dean? What do you do with Jalen Phillips? And what do you do with Reed Blankenship? I think that's the biggest question.
Well, so if I'm ranking them, if I'm like, I want Dean back, I would bring Phillips back. Like their priorities way above Reed Blankenship. Like I would start with them too, and then kind of figure it out from there. So Adam brings up a good point. One of Sirianni's principles is discipline. Did you guys see that on the Eagles? It felt like every time they had a penalty. Now, the fact that the Niners only got called for one penalty was a bunch of BS because I saw a bunch of, Jalen Carter being held. There were some holding on Jahan Dotson on a throw that he probably shouldn't have, or that Jalen probably shouldn't have made. AJ kind of got held on a route. Like how they only got called for one penalty is beyond me. But Jalen ran for 12 yards. He got a first down. There was a holding penalty. There was a screen out. I think it was to Saquon or Bigsby, one of them, and they called a holding on Cooper. Like, it felt like every time the Eagles finally started to get a little bit of momentum or started picking up some yards, they would commit a penalty. The holding penalty was by Juergens on Jalen's play. Like, it seemed like they always did something stupid or killed themselves every time they made a play and were looking to go down the field. You know, and it was like that the entire year. You can't keep preaching tough detail together if you're not going to be tough detailed and together, or at least one of those three pillars that you go. And they were not disciplined all year or detailed all year, I should say.
I totally agree with you on that point. Like that, Sirianni preaches it like it's something he lives and dies by, and he may live and die by it in practice. But when it comes to game time, the players just completely forget about what he says or just don't respect him enough to play that game that he wants them to play. But it was so frustrating to watch the penalties. And I agree with you. I'm still waiting for the compilation. I don't have the time of day to do it, but I'm waiting for the compilation of how many of those plays that Jalen Carter was held on that could have been called. The refs are ruining what could be Aaron Donald-like production in seasons because they're not calling Jalen Carter fairly. They're not reffing Jalen Carter fairly. I get it. I'm one of the biggest preachers of you can call a hold on every single play, but you just have to get it once or twice for those offensive linemen to respect, oh, they're watching us. They're watching what we do with Jalen Carter. And I think that would just change the whole landscape of how other offensive lines attack Jalen Carter and just going forward, having more respect for Jalen Carter and hopefully getting the production. Like he definitely could have probably easily more than doubled his sack output or his output in general this year if the refereeing was called more fairly with regards to him. But I mean, I'm sure I froze for a bit, so I'm sure you mentioned the Nolan Smith one. That hold on Nolan Smith on the Brock Purdy play where everyone's praising Brock Purdy for stepping up in the pocket. I could have stepped up in that pocket. The guy was being pushed. Nolan Smith was being held and pulled back away from making the play on Brock Purdy, which ended up being one of the bigger plays that doomed the game ultimately for us. Who knows if that sack happens, what would have happened down the road, but it ended up turning into a big play that we can look back on is something that really cost the Philadelphia Eagles defensively and put the San Francisco 49ers in such a good spot. But yeah, the reffing was, and I don't like to complain about reffing because at the end of the day, we can look at way more things on the offensive side of the ball that we should have probably scored 28 to 35 points, but we ultimately didn't. There was some major drops. There was just like, we were the laughing stock of the national media for running 4 verticals on that final pass play. And listen, you just can't make this stuff up. If you had told me we'd be suffering through some of the play calling that we did and some of just the predictable, simplistic, same thing over and over and over, I would, during the game I said on Twitter, I would have had him gone at the bye week. And if you wanted to say, let's give him after the bye, let's see what that extra week, what Petula will do. That game against Green Bay was more than enough in week 10 to move on from Petula and still have time to put together a formidable offense to finish the season. But because it dragged on, and I think it was finally like week 15 where the defense continued and became incredibly hard to listen to, but Petula continued to be defended over and over and over by Sirianni. The move had to be made week 10 at the latest, and it should have happened. It was inexcusable to come out of the bye week, and what was the excuse? Sirianni was just probably sitting there like, well, we gave him a week, but, the guys they're just off the bye, and it's like the excuses that were used to just give Petula opportunity after opportunity after opportunity just blows my mind beyond belief. It was the most frustrating thing to watch. And the fact that we continued to watch it, like, I know, like, the national media, some of them, and even Philly media are kind of talking about it like it's a surprise in a way, but it's really not a surprise that this happened. This has been long going on if you watch the Eagles enough.
Still no notification that Petula has been fired. Still
We've come on the air, 3 or 4 times this year and had breaking news happen during the show. So I'm really hoping that we're a good luck charm for that. But I think they're going to go through exit interviews tomorrow and Wednesday and then make the decision.
Well, I know they started them today because I think it was Nakobe. Somebody said that he met with Roseman. So we'll see. But this game was just really frustrating because I think Dan Orlovsky was saying on that final drive that the Eagles had, and I think it was they had 10 plays. 4 of them were the same one, that same 4 verts. Like, it's embarrassing. And them calling the timeout on 4th down was stupid. Like, I get why they did it, but I hated it. I would have much rather taken a delay of game if they kind of wanted to get a screenshot of what the Niners defense was doing before calling that dumbass play that they ended up calling anyway, and kept the three timeouts so that they could hopefully have the defense stop the Niners on 3 running plays, have them force a punt. And I know it'd be less than 30 seconds, but it would give you a very, very slim chance of coming back or maybe going down the field. But like, that's what I would have done. As soon as you call that timeout, if you don't convert the 4th down, it's over. The game's over. So that's what I was hoping or wish they would have done. But I'm not a head coach, and Sirianni makes the money that he does for whatever reason that is to be a CEO.
Yeah, here, I just want to get in.
Mead, what's going on? He says, I'm assuming the Patullo firing is on hold because they're deciding what to do with Nick Sirianni, what Nick Sirianni is willing to have taken away from him. That's probably it. And like my guess earlier was maybe that they kind of reached out to Harbaugh to see if he had any interest, since they have a relationship with him. And if they were going to make a trade or make a move at the head coaching position, I think obviously he's going to be number 1 on almost everybody's, list. And I know he's the leading candidate for the Giants and the Falcons. And he said he's going to interview, maybe a handful of places this week. But maybe who knows? It could be anything. But I don't know if I doubt they just signed him to a new contract. The move is going to be fire Patullo and make changes to the offensive coaching staff, bring in an experienced offensive play caller, and he has zero say in the offense. This offense should not look like it's looked the last 5 years. It should look completely different. Now, the big question comes, will an offensive coordinator want to work with Jalen Hurts? Like, is Jalen Hurts the reason why the offense looks the way it looks? And again, I don't know. I'm not saying it is. But that's going to be a big question for any potential offensive coordinators that will be interviewed, like they should have done.
Yeah, and
last
I mean,
year.
at the end of the day, you say who is there people out there willing to work with Jalen Hurts? I guess you can look back at Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore as prime examples of success working with Jalen Hurts and catapulting yourself into a head coaching job. So to the same point, I guess it would be.
Well, before you continue though, but with Kellen Moore, he didn't really run his offense.
No, he did not.
Though.
You're correct.
The offense we're seeing with the Saints isn't the offense we saw with the Saints this year is not the offense the Eagles ran last year. So he still ran Sirianni's offense. I'm talking about whoever comes in, we're not going to have nothing to do with Sirianni's offense. This is going to be a complete, whoever it is, Mike McDaniel, Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Dable, like whoever it is, it's going to be their offense. And Sirianni has zero say.
And I think that's going to happen during the exit interview is like, okay, we've let you run your offense. Yes, it's gotten us 2 Super Bowls by, offensive coordinators who were able to throw these little wrinkles into the offense to find success and get creative. But otherwise, Brian Johnson wasn't able to do it, a rookie play caller. Kevin Patullo wasn't able to do it as a rookie play caller. We have these random gaps where we go from in the Super Bowl to collapsing and having internal issues. It just doesn't make sense to continue to do things the Sirianni way. And I think that these exit interviews are going to be very interesting to see, because obviously I don't think the exit interview with Nick Sirianni happened today. I think that's one of the ones that takes like almost a full day debrief between Roseman and Laurie and really going in depth on everything. It's not like the players. You meet with the players, you sit down for half an hour, probably to an hour, and you move on. No, the head coach one is definitely more of a significant, like full day type venture, half a day type venture. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that, because I do think. But I think that I hope Sirianni realizes that if he's stripped of these things and he says, all right, I'm out, he's not getting another head coaching job. there's already enough out there about how you manage things, and people can see that it was your offense that other people were running, and the issues with AJ Brown, the issues with like a guy like Hassan Reddick in the past and stuff. You see that he's not necessarily leading the men the way you would like when things aren't going the right way for the team. So he has to realize that he probably just has to give up all power and be the culture guy, even if at times the culture can get a little thorny and iffy as well. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. And I will be watching very closely over the next 48 hours, because I think this is where you're going to see the Sirianni exit interview, the Patullo exit interview, the Patullo firing, any other firings that may come after Patullo. They say they want significant change, but I don't know how deep you can take this significant change. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Aaron Moorhead might not be back. Like, it feels like there's some guys who may be fall guys. For Kevin Patullo's a major fall guy, but there may be, if your position struggled, you may be a fall guy based upon that. So maybe Moorhead could be on the way out too. Like a few other guys could be on the way out. The only assistant safe is Jeff Stoutland. Otherwise, I think we could see any bunch of those guys go.
I think Jamal Singleton is safe, the running
too,
backs
yep.
coach. You do keep cutting in and out, Connor, just so you're aware. So if I end up cutting you off, I do apologize. We probably won't be able to keep this going much longer if that happens. Star Wars says, yes, an offensive play calling head coach. We're not worrying about finding replacement every year. Jalen deserves stability. Yes, he does deserve stability. Now, here's an interesting thing. What if, say, Stefanski's going to get a head coaching job, but let's say, for instance, as a hypothetically, he doesn't, and the Eagles were to hire him as the offensive coordinator. Like, he has head coaching experience, obviously, 2-time coach of the year, been to the playoffs with a terrible organization that didn't have much talent on offense. Like, what if they were able to convince, and this would obviously be a Lurie and Roseman thing, but like convince Stefanski to come be the offensive coordinator with, like, if things go off the rails, we're going to fire Sirianni and you're going to be the guy. Like, and then if that happens and he's still and he's able to get the offense going, like, he kind of just, he becomes the quote unquote interim head coach, but will probably get the permanent position after the season as long as the offense shows progression, with whatever offense he's running.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's risk to someone doing that to be the one that puts Sirianni on the hot seat. Like, if you do end up finding success going in as one of the highest paid offensive coordinators and expecting to become the interim or take over for Sirianni, I don't know if that would happen. I think if you find the success, you kind of saved Sirianni's ass so that he sticks around even longer. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen such a great group of coaches available. So if there was a time to consider moving on from Nick Sirianni and say he pushes back at all and you want to move on from him, this is an offseason that feels really ripe with talent to take advantage of and make that move. It's just, are you going to make the move? Are you going to really create this massive turn and churn because then someone's bringing in their own coaching staff, their own assistants. Like, it could be a massive change, but it could be what leads to the stability you need for Jalen Hurts and what you need for this football team after. I mean, we won the Super Bowl, but let's not deny that the last 3 years, maybe not last year, but the 3 years, like the Brian Johnson year and the Patullo year, those have been rocky years. Those have been troublesome years. So I don't know. It's tough to say. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens this week with the exit interview and if he's willing to give up control or if he's not willing to give up control and if Sirianni still has a job. I don't think Sirianni will be out of a job if he says what Howie and Lurie want to hear. He'll be out of it because of his own stupidity and stubbornness and loyalty to people that are getting fired, essentially. Doug Peterson-esque.
I do think he's going to be different than Peterson. He's going to be different than Peterson in that. Like, Peterson hitched his wagon to Press Taylor, and, like, I don't know why he did, and he did the same thing in freaking Jacksonville, and that didn't work out for him in 2 places. So I do think that Sirianni, he might try to come to a compromise. Look, I'll demote him. He can go be the pass game coordinator or whatever, which obviously he was before, and that didn't work out. But, like, they can move him somewhere else, just like when Howie got moved to the broom closet. They could do something, put Patullo somewhere on the coaching staff and bring in an offensive coordinator. I don't know if Patullo would want that though. Maybe Patullo. I also don't know if Patullo would get another job if he got fired from here. Like, let's be honest.
And Johnson did. He landed on his feet.
He might. Yeah, but our offense was also top 10 with Brian Johnson.
True.
This offense is in the 20s. Like, so while Brian Johnson, and that 23, like the offense wasn't great, but it was the defense in 23. Like with Desai and Patricia, our offense was still top 10 under Brian Johnson, even though it wasn't as consistent. But like, this is the worst offensive coordinator I think I've ever seen in the last 25 years of watching Eagles football. 25, 30 years.
I mean, I would argue he's one of the worst I've seen in the NFL. I've seen some bad ones, but I mean, he's a rookie play caller, so he has looked a little better than some of the worst in the NFL who had experience. But I mean, it's still no. I don't see him getting a job either. I don't where do you go? Like, all he ever was like a quality control coach, and then he got into the passing game coordinator, but didn't really do anything. He was just kind of there, and then he gets his job and he absolutely blows it. I get why he'd have the ego not to want to step back, but he's gonna have to step back if he wants a job. Anywheres.
Or go to the college game and get some experience, whatever it is, or get more experience at the college game. I will say this, kind of going back to the game. I know we've kind of veered off from that. I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit. Like, again, we've talked about how they lost Kittle, don't really have many receivers, and he was able to scheme DeMarcus Robinson open and Jawan Jennings open, and obviously Christian McCaffrey. And then Robert Saleh deserves a lot of credit because they were down to their 5th and 6th linebackers. Bryce Huff is their best pass rusher, and while they didn't get I don't know if that was considered a sack. Maybe it was in that last drive because he lost it. When Jalen tried to run up the middle, he lost the yard. Bryce Huff is their best pass rusher, and their secondary is so-so. And they did a good job against the Eagles receivers. And I get it. It's windy, but we can't keep using the wind. Some of those, the pass to Jahan Dotson, which I thought was stupid. I don't know if that was on 2nd down or 3rd down, whatever it was. You saw it, when it got in the air, it kind of hit a wall. And Jahan couldn't come back for it, even though it still looked like he was being held. And if he was able to come back for it, maybe they would have threw the flag. But the ball kind of hit a wall and hung up there a little bit and then just died. So I just didn't understand some of the play calling, obviously, because
when do we?
An idiot. And then that 4th down call, 4 verts on 4th and 11.
And they were inside 30 yards to go. The 4 verts is a Hail Mary-esque play, what you needed 15 yards to get to the 1st down and then you stay alive. There was no need to do 4 verts at all. And the point you made about Dan Orlovsky, I meant to bring up, it wasn't that they called the 4 verts 4 times. They used the same play on the next play on 4 occasions or something like that, or they skipped a play and then went back to the same play.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, you kind of broke up there. That is vaguely familiar with that. Adams Exploit says, worst Eagles play caller since Rich Kotite. You guys are too young to have seen him. Rich Kotite was in the early 90s. I was probably 5 when he was here. When did Buddy leave? Buddy left in the early 90s? Yeah, so that was before Kotite went to the Jets. But yeah, I think I was 5. I was born in 87. Because the Eagles, that was when the Eagles defense was still really good, and then the offense just couldn't do crap, especially after.
I was born in 93, so I probably would have been not even a year old. So,
oh man, I had my Jerome Brown jersey, by the way. I wore that earlier this year. I love those. I want to get not to go off subject, but the Randall Cunningham, Reggie White, Eric Allen, Eagles, Jerome Brown, Seth Joyner. Yeah, they were. You watch that, the only defense, one of the only defenses to be number 1 across the board, and I don't even know if they made the playoffs. And if they did make the playoffs, they didn't win a playoff game, which is crazy. That being number 1 in every defensive category and not be able to get to.
I just wanted to take a minute to go back to some of these comments. So Hertz Goat says, when are you guys breaking down the draft? We're going to take 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, we're going to take 3 to 4 weeks off. I'm gonna line up some guests. We're probably gonna do weekly shows after the Super Bowl. I'm starting to look at needs, draft needs, free agent needs, stay or go free agents, blah blah blah. That's kind of how we do our off season. We take a couple weeks, settle down after doing 2 episodes a week for the duration that we have done it for. So for the last 17 weeks, and trust me, this has been a trying season to do it. Let's just say that. 1 minute, let's see. What else did we have up here for comments? It's Goat says, and I know this is looking to the draft, I would draft 2 tight ends, run an offense like the Ravens in the past, since it's evident our QB1 is limited and we're stuck with this roster.
Speaking of the Ravens, I'm trying to sign Isaiah Likely as a tight end. They signed Mark Andrews. Likely might be available. I would try to sign Likely, but that's
going to have to address tight end. I don't think Goddard will be back. I think this is going to be, and Cal Kater's a free agent and he can gladly go.
I think yes, and so is Granson.
The only tight end we have on roster through this year is Cam Latu, I think, because we didn't even bring EJ Jenkins on a reserves contract back. So at this point, we have 1 tight end heading into next year. So there's going to be a lot of looking at addressing that.
So this last comment that we just got, we're underestimating how the O-line injuries dictated the playbook. The scheme depends heavily on blocking, and without it, Saquon has no lanes, and the coaching have to dial back the QB runs. I was shocked that they didn't run the ball more with Jalen, or that Jalen didn't run more. Like that was going to be, I didn't expect the offense to change. I expected Jalen to be more involved in the running game. And I think Jalen being more involved in the running game you is what you should have done with, and mainly because of the O-line injuries. And if you get Jalen in the running, because I kept watching, because every time they were under center, they handed the ball off. And he would kind of roll out, and I kept looking at the backside, and it seemed like they just weren't respecting that he would keep it. If Jalen would have just kept it once, could have got 10 yards, 15 yards, then the backside DN, backside linebacker, whoever it is, would have to hold for for a second, and then that would have opened up things again for Saquon. Again, Saquon didn't have a bad game. He had over 70 yards rushing in the first half, finished with over 100 yards rushing, but he only had like 35 in the second half. But like, Jalen not running really hurt this offense the entire season. And I don't know if that was the coaching staff saying, look, we can't afford to get you hurt, so we're not going to run you. I don't know if that was Jalen saying, look, I'm not running because I don't want to get hurt. Whatever it was, that should have changed on yesterday in the playoff game, and it did not. The one run he had, we had a holding penalty on Juergens that got called back. Like, his legs are what make him the quarterback that he is. And he went from being a $50 million quarterback to be like, it hurts me to say this, but if he's not going to run, he's a mediocre quarterback. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If he's not going to run, it does away with what makes him so good. And I don't know if he can be a pure pocket passer quarterback. And every time, like, he feels that there could be no rush, but if he feels it, he's going to roll out right and throw it out of bounds, and that was frustrating, and that happened way too many times yesterday against the Niners.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if we're ever going to truly know the why Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run. I don't know if it's him, like you said, or if it was just the way the offense was being called, just the Kevin Patullo offense, something that doesn't make sense, continues to not make sense, and pass us by. I think there was a stat out there, the design runs between last year and this year for Jalen Hurts was like cut in half. It went from 96 to like 42 or something.
41.
It was 41. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. And then even in this game, he had 5 carries for 14 yards. His longest run was 4 yards. And then, of course, he got that penalty that was a bit touch and go. But I mean, if it's the only penalty we got through 4 in our favor for the whole game, we're going to take it. So it was a weak call by the refs on that one, but they missed a handful of others that would have made far more sense to call. But it just doesn't make any sense to me. You need to be, we know and we clearly see that if he's taken his own legs out of the equation, I'm not going to say he's useless, but it severely limits the offense, which makes you wonder if he was and is going forward going to be one of the limiting factors of this offense, and not because of how he is as a passer in the pocket, but because of his unwillingness to do what his true strengths are in games, and that's using his legs and running. It's risky. I get it. We saw Lamar Jackson this year be banged up We've seen, the Robert Griffin instance where it's like a major injury ends your career. There's a lot of risk to it, but that's your greatest asset and that's your greatest value. And it's what offensive coordinators need to be able to use and need to be able to work with to get the most effective offense out of this team.
They also need an offensive coordinator who's not going to take shit. Like, I feel like the last 5 years, and Jalen has said it, like the offense is going to look the way Jalen wants the offense to look. Well, the new offensive coordinator has to come in and say, no, the offense is going to look the way I want it to look. I'm going to call the play. You're going to run it. You don't want to be under center? If I call an under center play, you're going to run it. You don't want to throw over the middle? If I call a play for the tight end over the middle and he's open, you're going to throw it. Like, I think that's what they need a no-nonsense guy. Somebody that's going to push Jalen to try to, out of his comfort zone. That's what they need. Like, and if they don't, if they hire somebody and the offense still looks like it's looked the last 4 or 5 years, I hate to say it now. And again, I'm just projecting. I'm like, if it were to do that, it's a Jalen problem. Maybe it's not a Sirianni problem. And maybe things would look different with a different quarterback. Who knows? But that's like whoever the new offensive coordinator is going to be, it needs to be their offense, and they need to be a no BS type of guy. And they need to pretty much, Jalen, this is what we're doing. And Jalen can, and look, you can pick a handful of plays that you like, and I'll try to fit it into but it's going to be my offense. If I want you under center, you're under center. If if we're going to have to call a handful of QB runs, you're going to run the ball a handful of times. We're not going to avoid the middle of the field. It's not going to be all flat routes, hitches, only outside the numbers. We're going to use the entire field. And that's what they need to do with whoever the next offensive coordinator is going to be.
Yeah, and I think that all goes back to you take the power, you strip the power away from Nick Sirianni. Sirianni has no longer his hands in the defense or the offense. He's just the culture guy, the CEO guy, and hopefully he can do that effectively. He's going to have a much shorter leash next year, and if all he is a CEO guy, that leash is going to be held extremely tight by Howie and Jeffrey Lurie. Hertz Goat says, we got 9 picks, got to strike gold. Based on what I'm hearing, the unfortunate thing is this draft class isn't very good, from what I've heard. So that kind of sucks. We do have 9 picks, and they're all in the first 5 rounds. So we don't have a 6th and a 7th as of right now. But I mean, Howie's going to make a deal. He's going to make trades. He always does. So I'm sure that'll change. And I think 5 of those picks are in the first 3 rounds. So it's decent draft capital. It's high draft capital. We have a significant amount of needs. So needs to prepare for the future, looking forward, thinking as well. Obviously, Lane Johnson, that injury, like we said, why didn't he get put on the IR is a big question right now, because there's no way if he couldn't play in this game, that even if we needed him in a pinch in week 17 or 18, he probably wasn't going to be able to go. Like they say, like you saw the video in Hard Knocks and stuff, and he was working out his farm, looked good, looked fine, looked like he would be ready to go. But the fact that as soon as he practiced on it as a limited participant for 3 days, the swelling came back and he couldn't go. I think he needs some sort of major foot surgery, probably Liz Frank surgery of some sort. So it'll be interesting to see what his recovery timeline is like, and I think he'll want to come back, but I mean, you got to start to really question things in replacing him and moving forward from Lane Johnson as well. I was looking at Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens just for point of just some things to wrap up with. You can't move off of either of them until after next season, so you chalk this up to a bad year, injury-riddled year for these two, and hope that they return to form. I mean, Cam Jurgens is a Pro Bowler, so hopefully they return to even better form.
I would move him to right guard and let Willie Lampkin and Drew Kendall battle it out for starting center.
That makes perfect sense too. I agree. Like, would it make sense to move if his injuries are that bad? Like, it's a lot harder to be a center than it is to be, the right guard. So if it is, some major injury thing and his back's never going to be the same, he probably can't be a center. He probably, especially being an undersized center, you're right. He probably does need to move over to right guard or move to a different position. And I think we talked about this on the last episode. I think he's a right guard he played right guard in college. He's a right guard by...
Well, he played center. I think he may have went to college as a guard, but ended up playing center.
Okay, that might have been what it was. But I agree with you on that point. Like, if his back didn't have enough time to heal, and his back's not right and probably not going to get right being a center. Maybe it makes sense to move him to right guard. Tyler Steen's a free agent, I think at the end of next year, and he hasn't been that great. He's not a guy that you're like, oh, we can't replace him. He's replaceable, especially if you're moving Cam Jurgens and trying to see, can Cam Jurgens continue with us? Do we want to keep Cam Jurgens beyond next year when, there's a bit more out space in his contracts? It'll be interesting to see, but I'm chalking the Dickerson and Jurgens thing up. I agree. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Jurgens if they want to move him to right guard, but I'm chalking the Dickerson and Jurgens season up to not being 100% at any point in this season. And I said that about Dickerson long ago, and there was even some episodes where you said you thought he was back. And he clearly indicated with his exit interview today with the media that he probably was at no point in the season ever remotely close to right. So the only guy who was right for the whole season right now, it seems, was Jordan Mailata, and he just had a straight up bad season too. So hopefully we can chalk those up to bad seasons and move forward with a better offensive coordinator who Jeff Stoutland can work with to maximize what once was a major strength of this team.
And again, it sucks, but they get a month head start than they had last year. So you figure out what ailments you have, figure out what needs to be done surgery-wise or the way to get healed up, and take the next 3 months, 4 months before camp starts and get yourself right. And let's try to get healthy. And again, it seems like it's the even years. 22, we went to the Super Bowl. 24, we won the Super Bowl. 23, we had a collapse. 25, we lost in the first round. The even years seem to be the years that we sort of make a run. So let's get healthy, get the right offensive play caller in here. Bring pieces back, bring pieces in that can help. Hopefully Fangio stays around, which I don't see why he wouldn't. And, let's go and try to, win another.
I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, we still have a lot of talent. There's a lot of great talent. There's some tough decisions that Howie's going to have to make, obviously, and you're not going to be able to bring back, Phillips, Dean, Carter, Davis, every single one of them. It's unlikely they're going to be back, but we know we're about to see a major shift from spend on the offense to spending on the defense and having to build through with some younger guys, maybe less experienced guys, maybe, you think about Patrick Mahomes and sometimes what he has to deal with, and Josh Allen and sometimes what he has to deal with. I don't think Howie will let it get to that extreme. I think we do have Devontae Smith. We do have Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby for the foreseeable future and stuff. So there are some good players. Be interesting to see what happens when Jalen Hurts starts to lose some of this elite talent around him that at times he's able to use, but at times he's incapable of using. But we're about to see a major shift in where the spending is and where the draft capital and investment's going to be going.
You broke up a little bit there, Connor. Hertzgoat says, do you think AJ will be doing sit-ups in his driveway? I know that's a joke. No. But he will be back. He should be back. I mean, I think with an offensive coordinator that knows how to devise a real game plan and not an elementary school game plan, that won't have him running 3 routes. They move him around, and, have him running. We didn't see did we see one slant from AJ yesterday? Not one slant. That's his best route, and we didn't see it. And so I think it, and I want AJ back because I do like AJ, and I think he'll be better next year. It also is a financial thing. You're not going to trade him with the dead salary dead cap that it's going to cost to trade him. Billy Mead says, still think Jalen not running was more a concussion thing that wasn't caught early in the season, and they didn't want him to risk it. Really curious what he looks like next season. And I want to know what the offense is going to look like. I want to know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. And again, I want Sirianni to have 0 say in what the offense is. They got to get a wide receiver 3 too. Yeah, Dotson will probably be gone. I know they like Cooper. I don't know if he's ready to be a wide receiver 3. I thought that they made the John Mechie trade at the beginning of the season for him to kind of be the future wide receiver 3, but then they traded him to the Jets for Michael Carter. And again, we have Michael Carter next year too. He can also play safety. I think he went in at safety yesterday when Epps went off the field. So we'll see what the defense. I don't worry about the defense next year with Fangio running things, and you still have Carter, Davis, Bond. You'll have Campbell. Hopefully Dean comes back. You have Quinion. You have Coop. Like, they still have so many, like, really good to elite pieces on that defense. So I'm not worried about the defense because of the coaching and the players they have. I'm still worried. I'm going to be worried about the offense until we hear who the offensive coordinator is going to be and what happens with AJ.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I have great faith in Vic Fangio and what this defense is going to be capable of next year. My concern is just getting those contracts done, who we keep, who we don't keep. I think Jalen Phillips made a big difference at edge. I think it would be really good to bring Jalen Phillips back.
He talked about wanting to come back too.
Exactly. You know he wants to come back too. It's just how much are we going to have to spend on him? Like you said, the same way you prioritized it, Tank Bigsby is back next year. Yeah, he's under contract for one more year. You prioritized it as Jalen Phillips, Nakobe Dean, and
I think I went Dean Phillips, Dean and then Phillips.
And I think I'd be in a similar boat. You have Jahad Campbell there, which I think gives you more runway to go after Phillips, and then Dean be your secondary option to bring in. But that's the only reason I would put it in my mind, thinking as like Howie, trying to think like Howie, that it would be Jalen Phillips, Nakobe Dean, Reed Blankenship. And Reed Blankenship, I could see him being back just because financially he'll be cheap. They'll probably be able to make it work, and he'll probably be back next year.
I hope he's not back. That's just me. I'm finding a way to move up in the draft to take Caleb Downs, and there's your starting safety. Caleb Downs and Makuba could be your starting safeties next year. Excuse me. Before we finish off, do the Eagles give Jalen Hurts a contract extension?
No chance.
No chance? You don't think so?
I don't think so. To me, it's like you gave the extension. So I think to Saquon Barkley last year. Okay, he had a huge season. Okay, didn't have to do it. You did him a favor. The offense looked really bad, and whether you want to put it on Patullo or Sirianni or Hurts was part of the offense and it not working. And a very key part of that offense, it was not working. You make him prove it next year, and you say, prove it to us, and we'll pony up next year, but not this offseason. No way.
It'd be interesting because I wonder if they were to give him one, does that open up more cap flexibility? And you know that's what Howie's all about. I'm not 100% sure how it would work. I have to kind of dig into that. I guess obviously it would depend on what he was given and whatnot and how the signing bonus went. But with only having, what do they have, $22-ish million in cap, you know how he likes to find ways to give himself up to at least 40-ish million, 40 to 50 million. And if an extension with, say, Jalen were to help that, it wouldn't shock me. And I don't think it's going to happen, but it's something to keep an eye out for this offseason.
Yeah, it just means it means you're kicking the can down the road, and you have to, Hurts is your starting quarterback, and you have to keep moving with them. I think we open up $2.5 million by getting rid of Jake Elliott, which I think is happening post June 1st. Just saying. Yeah,
he was not good. He's been so, it's crazy too, because he was so good, but he has been bad in the last couple of years. We appreciate everybody that's tuned into the Kelly Green Hour this season. I'm not going to speak for Connor, but all the comments that we get, we wouldn't be able to do this show without all the help that you guys provide us. We do appreciate it. Like Connor said earlier, while the football season is still going on, the Eagles are not, we are going to take a little bit of a break, probably after the Super Bowl as we dive into free agency and get towards draft season. We will definitely be back. Like Connor said, try to get some guests in. And we'll have our
Unless there's some major breaking news. If Sirianni gets fired, you may see us back here on Friday.
If Sirianni gets fired, that's a big... AJ Brown gets traded. I don't know if that's big enough because everybody kind of anticipates it, even though I don't. Jalen Hurts, a move happens with Jalen, definitely. Like, if there's some big moves made, we definitely will be back. Before I go, Connor, both of our Super Bowl teams are not in the playoffs anymore. I think we both had Ravens-Eagles. Who is your new Super Bowl matchup?
I think the Bills for coming out of the AFC. From the NFC side of it, oh man, that's going to be tough. I think it's going to be the Rams, though. I'm going to go Bills-Rams.
I'm going to go Rams-Patriots, I think.
Patriots are back.
I'm not too thrilled, but it is what it is. There are new Super Bowl predictions because we both had the Ravens and Eagles, and obviously that did not work out well. Thank you, everybody, again, for tuning into each and every week as we gave our best to just go over all this mess with the Eagles, and hopefully Kevin Patullo's fired by the time we sign off the show in the next 60 seconds. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRL54, and follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast. As Adam's exploit says, be like Dave and Rube, emergency pod. Hey, if news comes out, even if it's a 20-minute show, we'll come out and give our thoughts on it, especially if something happens with the coaching decisions. And again, hopefully Patullo is fired in the next 30 seconds. As always, we appreciate it. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you all for tuning into the Kelly Green Hour.